Hey,
Okay, hello, Daniel.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dim, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of the fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderst in his shade, when in eternal time, lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. I would just like to say this is a very unusual experience. Thank you all for waiting, and thank you all for being so patient. As a kind of folly, as an artist, my apologies for being so so late. But I hope that today, one of the things that I want to relay to you, and one of the things that I've been able to understand in these in the short time that I had in experiencing Shakespeare's sonnets, is that they can be fun. And I just had fun. I just decided, what the hell? I'm going to start with something random, and basically that was completely improvised. This whole small little song was completely improvised. And if there's one thing that I learned from these sonnets, is that they're really fun to improvise with. So one of the things that I'd like to, first of all, thank you for coming. And I'd like to ask the administrator, Oksana, would it be possible? I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to go along with. Would it be possible to share that with the guests, so that they can also have a chance to read along with me with the sonnets? Would that be possible?
So I think we can make you as a co-organizer, and then you can share your screen.
Okay, that would be wonderful, because much of my information that I'd like to tell you today is there.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I am the co-host now. Okay, great, wonderful. Let me try to. Such a unusual experience.
You're doing great.
This is my first online lecture, and especially on a topic like this. So I was texting Alexandra, one of the participants here, that I'm tremendously nervous, but in a wonderful way, as artists are before, you feel like coming on right before coming on stage. And I have a question quickly before I start. Is it possible to, if I play some audio files, is it possible for the guests to hear them? Does everyone have?
Yes, if you choose like the computer sound, then it should work. Normally it works.
Wonderful then. Wonderful. Everyone hears me fine, and the connection is okay. That's good. Let's proceed then. Let's proceed. Here we go. View. Play. Okay. share screen, and I am sharing, I guess I am sharing my, yes, okay, I'm sharing everything with you. There are no secrets, so if something strange pops up, please don't be afraid.
Okay.
It's all part of the plan. All right.
Good.
So, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, exploring Shakespeare sonnets. The topic of the meeting was the fun and joy of Shakespeare sonnets. But in the process of my kind of discovery, my short discovery, because it's only been, I'm by no means a scholar. I've discovered some things that I want to share with you that seemed to me very peculiar and kind of touched me. And here's what we're going to start with. My first question, and maybe you can ask yourself that, why are we so sometimes put off by sonnets? We hear Shakespeare sonnets, Shakespeare sonnets. What are they? What are these strange things? Very often, I mean, me being, right now I'm going on 33, and for me, this is kind of the first time that I've approached them in detail, to be honest. Better late than never, obviously, but there's such a kind of very small piece of work here. This all it is, a small little book, right? 154 sonnets. But in especially modern times, we kind of never get around to it. The question is why. One of the reasons is that for me as a still young person, is that I believe that there's a kind of classical barrier of how they're supposed to be read sometimes, and what is supposed to be done with them, that is kind of stigmatized, and that kind of comes from the so-called received pronunciation, which you all know. I'm not banging on it, but as an American, I have the right to, by not having received pronunciation officially, I guess I have the right to kind of criticize it in a way. So what I want to do, I want to show you two different versions of the sonnets. One is, as said here, is read by the great John Gielgud, and is the kind of classic, in a way, classic way of pronouncing and saying these sonnets. And the second one is going to be by Ben Crystal, a Shakespeare scholar and actor, whom I have referenced much will reference today. And I just want you to hear the difference. Okay? Hopefully these links will work. Make sure that you hear that. And one thing that I'm going to do beforehand, wait a second, don't start, is probably get you on a loudspeaker so that it works. Just a second. Everybody can hear.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
Can you hear that?
Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
So, round of applause to Sir John Gielgud. An incredible, an incredible reading, an incredible. It's very classic. It's very standard. It's very monumental. It's like every word is like a column that's fixed by time. And I believe that that is one way of reading it, but it's definitely not the healthiest way for us. Because if we all start to read in a way that is exactly like this, then the chances are that sometimes we will be put off by what is in the context of the poem. Do you see that sometimes when people speak like this, it becomes hard to understand what they're saying? So that was my my humble criticism. I'm going to show you now the second part by Ben Crystal, and I want you to see, and here we have an image. I want you to see and hear the difference.
Art more lovely, more temperate. Rough winds to shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lace at all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, perchance, where nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Okay, round of applause to Ben Crystal. So one of the things that I may say that this, first of all, how he was speaking, you may have noticed that he was speaking in a certain accent. That was what they call today original pronunciation. The original, what they think, according to records and etc., what they think the language of Shakespeare back in the 16th century sounded like. So what you just heard was the equivalent of an actor in Shakespeare's theater reading, and you can hear the difference. You can see the difference, and you can hear the difference. It's more accessible. It's more common. It's a bit easier to understand than the monumental importance of Shakespeare, because very common a thing that where we put our poets on pedestals and then have trouble understanding them. And another reason why we have trouble understanding them is that we don't know enough about them. Not so much about the poems, but also much about the sonnets. And that's what I'd like to continue with tonight. So, moving on. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go through this. I'm going to have to go through this for you guys to understand and follow along, just so that you do or don't know. Just the standard Shakespearean sonnet form, which is probably something that if you were in school in England. In America, we did not go over Shakespeare's sonnets, but if you were in school in England, most likely you did go through the form. Now, the form is quite simple. But it is a standard form, and only 2 of the 154 sonnets do not oblige with this form. As you see here, the rhyme scheme is A-B, A-B, which introduces the question. There's generally a question at the beginning. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day, for example? C-D, C-D, potential or tentative answers. E-F, E-F. And then a final answer, GG, a couplet that is out of nowhere, it's rhyming. And so there are 3 what they call quatrains, and a rhyming couplet at the end. Now, one thing to also pay attention to in each of the sonnets, and that once you kind of know where to look for it, it makes it interesting to watch for, like a detective kind of. You can go, oh, this is it. When you see it, is the volta. And volta is not the the guy who discovered voltage or electricity, but it is a turn or transition, usually in line 9, which marks a shift in the focus or thought. So let's just take a look at examples. So there's one more time. You see quatrain 1, 2, and 3. So A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, and 2 Gs. And I'm going to turn off my, just a second. And so we have the volta. And the volta, when you listen to the volta, it should be like, you should experience a kind of shock, like a aha, like a wow. That is the turn in the poem. Let's take a look at the one that we've seen so far. That's the one that we've seen so far. Here we go. So A, B. Everybody sees this? It's okay, it's on the monitor, right? Okay.
No, we see you. We don't see your screen. Probably you need to reshare it once again.
Oh, okay, that would be important to share. Just a sec. Let me try.
I see it.
Okay, you see it. Let me do it again.
Do it again.
I was seeing it as well.
Oh, okay, maybe then.
Progress, that's good. Okay, let's see. Make sure.
Okay, good.
Just a second. Yeah. Good. All right. So we have exactly Sonnet 18. The first, just what I just said. The first quatrain, second quatrain, second. So first quatrain: day, temperate, May, date. A, B. Shines, dimmed, declines, untrimmed. C, D. Fade, owest, shade, growest. E, F. And then 2 Gs, which 2 Gs, yo. C and the couplet. Now, if you notice that when we read this, and I will read it just, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines by chance, or nature's course untrimmed. And then here's the volta. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of the fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. And here's the final GG, kind of the epitome of the whole poem. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So pay attention to that, please. Pay attention to this form. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G. Very simple to follow along in the sonnets that we're going to discover today. Okay. Now, one thing, if you were watching Ben Crystal's video, at the end of reading the sonnet, he was going. Another very popular thing that is worldwide known about Shakespeare's sonnets is that they resemble the beating of the heart. If you know how the heart beats, bum, 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 bum. It is the natural way we are used to talking and speaking and working with language, the English language in particular. It's the way that it's been evolved. And if you see here, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. You'll find that in Russian, those of you who are Russian, obviously, Pushkin uses this, мой дядя самых честных правил. He uses that to his advantage. And this iambic pentameter is what it's called. Iambic pentameter is something that is in Shakespeare's poetry very, very, very often, and we see it generally. And once again, it resembles it. We speak like it. I don't. Today I went to buy a cup of tea. we have that kind of. It's in our. You can experiment with words, and usually you'll in probably 8 out of 10 times you can come up with an iambic pentameter line. By the way, when preparing for this talk, one of the things that I had done was kind of fooled around with the melody. You all know the words to Yesterday, the Beatles, right? Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Same thing. I want to make an experiment here, actually. Let's give it a try. Maybe try to do a modern rendition or an old end of the 1500s, beginning of the 1600s rendition of the Beatles, if I may do this exprompt. Let's try. Looking at this text. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaves have all too short a date. Sometime too hot. No, okay, I didn't get that. Wait a second. Sometime too hot. The eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dim. And every fair from fair sometime declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. And so there you have it, a change in the melody of a most wonderful song that fits Shakespeare's rhythm. Shakespeare's rhythm, once again, ba-bum, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. All right, so we know the structure of the poems. We know that they're based on iambic pentameter. We know that the form is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. What's next? Who speaks in the sonnets? Who is their hero? Who is the person who is, who's talking to us? Now, in Shakespeare's sonnets, in this wonderful book of sonnets, 154 of them, all of them are spoken by one person. And that one person is the hero, the main hero, the poet. And the poet takes us on a sort of train ride, if you will, in which we mentally recreate scene by scene the landscape of how this lover speaks and what he goes through. He is this poet. He's clever, proud of his logic, severely proud, and not long on self-knowledge. Also, I think he's many times inconsistent, melancholy, and may have, as you may see, according to today's may be diagnosed suffering from bipolar disorder, which we will see. But without that, there's little drama. So when you hear these sonnets, I want you to understand that they're being spoken by one person. By one person. and the hero is their poet. So, coming to the story and coming to the sonnets, this is one very important thing. The story of this book, of the sonnets, comes down to 4 or 5, I think 5 main sections. You can divide them into sections, and it tells the story of this poet, of the love that he goes through. And in the opening section, sonnets 1 through 14, the person who's reading them, the poet, he is like a teacher. He's like a teacher to a youthful pupil. And in this sense, he teaches him and tells him not to do this. Don't do this. Don't you do several times, like almost hitting him on top of the head. And of course, in the end, in the GG part, usually, the youth does not listen. For the youth, it is superfluous. He's young, and he obviously rejects. Let's take a look at how this works. The first sonnet. And just to make sure, I have a Russian translation of the sonnets on the right. So that for those of you who are not familiar with Old English, as myself, I'm not too familiar. I sometimes may get some words wrong. There is the word-for-word translation of the sonnets on the right-hand side. That's what I found was kind of just word. It's not a poetic translation, it's a word-for-word translation. So let's take a look. Sonnet number 1. Sonnet number 1. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. But as the riper should by time decease, his tender air might bear his memory. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feedst thy light's flames with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies. Thyself, thy foe, to thy sweet self, too cruel. Thou art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring. Within thine own bud buryest thy content, and tender churl makes waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by grave and thee. There are several interesting things in this poem. One of them being that the reference to bud, within thine own bud buryest thy content. The word bud is kind of a reference to the so to say, to an organ, the childbearing organ of a man. Without thine own bud, you buryest your content. So within yourself, you keep your content. You don't give it to someone. And so basically, it's about not going out and making another you. While you're young, it's okay, and when you're older, pity the world. So from sonnet 1 to sonnet 14 on through, when you'll be reading this on your own time, you will notice that there's this mentor tone. There's this mentor tone of the poet going, don't do this, don't waste your seed, don't, because you will die and perish and there will not be a second you. Sonnet 14, the next one, is the end of that. He's almost giving up. This mentor, this wise person is always giving up, and he's going to switch later on. Sonnet 14. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck, and yet, sorry, let me find it here. Sonnet 14. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck, and yet, methinks I have astronomy, but not to tell of good or evil luck, of plagues or dearths or seasons' quality. Nor can I fortune or brief minutes tell, pointing to each his thunder, rain, and wind, or say with princes, it shall go, if it shall go well, by oft predict that I in heaven find. But from thine eyes my knowledge I derive, and constant stars in them I read. Such art as truth and beauty shall together thrive, if from thyself to store thou wouldst convert. Or else of thee this I prognosticate, I predict. The end is truth's and beauty's doom and date. So this man, he's predicting that the end of truth and beauty will come when you will die. Truth and beauty are large categories, and so he's being very, very. This poet is he's almost slamming the door on him. Come on, don't. And he's kind of giving up. There's less mentor. There's less mentor as someone. I heard someone kind of sigh in the background there, going. I think that's what's happening here in this sonnet. But Shakespeare moves on. And in the next row of sonnets, there is a change, and a sudden change. And the sudden change is to he stops trying to convince the youth to get married and have children, and begins to fall in love with the youth himself. So this is an interesting transition, one that you'll notice after sonnet 14, 15, 16 and on, that he begins to fall in love with the object of his caring. And we see the kind of friction that develops between them, and the plot proceeds, the speaker unwillingly to give up his love for his friend. Let's analyze this. One of the things we took a look at the one, I started off with this, sonnet 18. And now I'll try to read it a little bit more. Imagine that this sonnet is written as if someone is writing a letter. As if someone is writing a letter. It's a very pensive sonnet. Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to the summer's day? One of probably the most famous of Shakespeare sonnets. So, and take your time with it. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? No. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Here's why. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease have all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou ownst. Nor shall death brag thou wanderst in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growst. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So an incredible there is a reason why this is one of the most quoted pieces of literature from Shakespeare's sonnets. It's an incredible piece of demonstration where, imagine that the poet has just fallen in love, and he's writing this to the person. He hasn't given it to him or her. He hasn't presented this piece, but he knows that this piece, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long this will live, and this will give life to thee. So it's not a mentor tone. It's not It's a totally different tone. Let's examine the next one. There might be, you might find a little more, a little more love, how to say, stress in this poem, 27. Is everyone seeing the, are you keeping track with the translations? Are they helping?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see on the right here that there's a translation. I hope that it will, I know that there's some Russian speaking audience here. So Sonnet 27. Weary with toil, I haste to my bed. The dear repose for limbs with travel tired. But then begins a journey of my head to work my mind when body's work expired. For then my thoughts from far where I abide intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee, and keep my drooping eyelids open wide, looking on darkness which is blind to see. Save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view, which, like a jewel being hung in ghastly night, makes black night beauteous, and her old face new. Lo, thus, by day, my limbs, by night, my mind, for thee and for myself, no quiet find. So he can't find himself. What's next in this part? Sonnet 34. Maybe getting a bit more irritated here. Why didst thou promise such a beauteous day, and make me travel forth without my coat, to let base clouds o'ertake me in my way, hiding thy bravery in their rotten smoke? 'Tis not enough that through the cloud thou break, to dry the rain on my storm-beaten face, for no man, well as such a salve can speak, that heals the wound and cures not the disgrace. Nor can thy shame give psychic to my grief. Though thou repent, yet I have still the loss. The offender's sorrow lends but weak relief to him that bears the strong offense's cross. Ah, but those tears are pearl which thy love sheds, and they are rich and ransom all ill deeds. And Sonnet 43. Remember, we're on the journey. I want you to. This is like this is a journey that we're going on, in which I want you to see and understand kind of. I mean, picture a person that you. I mean, we've all loved. We've all been through different stages of love. Picture this situation. Imagine how it gets more and more frustrating, more and more, how to say, challenging, so to say. So this is a Sonnet 43. When most I wink, then do mine eyes best see, for all the day they view things unrespected. But when I sleep, in dreams, they look on thee, and darkly bright are bright in dark detected. Then thou, whose shadow shadows doth make bright, who would thy shadow's form happy show to the clear day with thy much clearer light, when to unseeing eyes thy shade shines so? Who would, I say, mine eyes be blessed made by looking on thee in the living day, when in dead night thy fair imperfect shade through heavy sleep on sightless eyes doth stay. All days, it's the GG part, all days are nights to see till I see thee. All nights, bright days, all nights, bright days, when dreams do show thee me. So sweet dreams, this gentleman is suffering from. During the day, he cannot see her and or him, and it is impossible. And only at night does he find this sanctuary, so to say. And we're moving on. Much longer is the third section, from going on from about, I don't know exactly, I cannot say exactly when it stops and starts, but we do know that it becomes the emotions that the person goes through could go up and down. It becomes a whirlwind of kind of a whirlwind that leads to despondency and desperateness. Images of death start to crawl in, and discovers that love, in Sonnet 80, we'll be reading it right now. Sonnet 80, he discovers that love has betrayed him, and his poetic power, remember the person who's speaking as a poet, the author's poetic power seems spent. He continues to praise his friend and recover from his hatred. By the end of the section, in Sonnet 126, the friend has taken up with others, and the empty spaces at the end of the poem suggest the finality of their relationship. So let's see where Shakespeare's taking us. Sonnet 18. It's quite a jump we made. So there's a lot of passion. You'll find it, and here it's a bit more down. Oh, how I faint when I of you do right, knowing a better spirit doth use your name, and in the praise thereof spends all his might to make me tongue-tied speaking of your fame. But since your worth wide as the ocean is, the humble as the proudest sail doth bear, my saucy bark, inferior far to his, on your broad main doth wilfully appear. Your shallowest help will hold me up afloat, whilst he upon your soundless deep doth ride. Or being wrecked, I am a worthless boat, he of tall building and of goodly pride. Then if he thrive and I be cast away, the worth was this. My love was my decay. Another character we're introduced to in the sonnets is that of another person. Obviously, he's not only talking. There's a significant other, a third significant other that is introduced, and he is inferior. He is not inferior is not the right word. He is the poet feels inferior to him, and it is a tragedy for him. He feels, here we see he's tongue-tied. He's a humble. He has saucy bark. His skin is saucy compared to his broad mane. So the person that his love is with has a broad mane, meaning wild hair. And he's wrecked. He's a worthless boat. And his love was his decay. Moving on. 106. When in the Chronicles, chronicle of wasted time, remember he was the wasted love that he spoke of before. When in the chronicle of wasted time, I see descriptions of the fairest waits, and beauty making beautiful old rhyme in praise of ladies dead and lovely knights. Then, in the blazon of sweet beauty's best, on hand, of foot, of hand, of foot, of lip or eye, of brow, I see their antique pen would have expressed even such a beauty as you master now. So all their praises are but prophecies of this our time, all you prefiguring, and for they looked, but with divining eyes, they had not skill enough your worth to sing. For me, which now behold these present days, for we, which now behold these present days, had eyes to wonder, but lack tongues to praise. So we don't have the tongues to praise you and your beauty. Moving on. This one is actually one of my personal favorites. And remember, this is him observing the kind of the dying of love. But still, he's observing it. It hasn't quite yet perished. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within its bending sickle compass come. Love alters not with brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. So I absolutely adore these last phrases where he's kind of cutting it off and saying, imagine he's already written these 115 sonnets before, and this is kind of almost a grand finale going, if this be error and upon me proved, if all of this, he's telling what love is and what love isn't. He's saying love does not find alteration love does not bend with the remover. Love is an ever fixed mark, and he bears it out until the edge of doom. It's there with him for until the edge of doom, and it's not time's fool. Time has no rule over love. And then he says, if this be error and upon me proved, if I'm wrong, then I never writ. I didn't write a single word, nor no man ever loved. What a like a statement, like a grand statement of here, this is what love is. It's like a postulate at the end. And talk about those GGs at the end. All right. And in the last poem in this series, in this part where he's kind of still reminiscing and about his love and thinking, this is of thou, my lovely boy, who in thy power dost hold time's fickle glass, his sickle hour, who hast by waning grown, and therein show'st thy lover's withering as thy sweet self growst. In nature, sovereign mistress over wrack, as thou goest onward, still will pluck thee back. She keeps thee to this purpose, that her skill may time disgrace and wretched minutes kill. Yet fear her, O thou minion of her pleasure. She may detain, but not still keep her treasure. Her audit, though delayed, answered must be, and her quietus is to render thee. So we notice that he's again observing, but this time he's observing that he has the object of his love has been taken, and has been taken by a third person. This she, who kills the wretched minutes, who will pluck thee back, who will pluck him back and disgrace time. And she will detain him, but not keep him. He is definitely observing what has happened. We move on. The fourth section. Here, the object of the poet's love, he shows his cynicism and bitterness. And I think that here you'll find in these parts that there's a lot of this provides a lot of humor and jolliness in a way too. And some people consider that these particular poems, the two 130 and 137 sonnets, are how to say the most witty and fun. There's a lot of, because he's directly accusing a person of something, and they're really fun. They kind of bounce off the tongue and fun to read. And then it goes in this general part, in this last part. It switches to the last part where the speaker descends into hell and is complete when he loses both of his loves and fails to find a way out. Ironically, he still has doubts, but the reader does not. That is in Sonnet 144. So let's take a look at this this mistress, which he talks to. This is also very, very popular. Sonnet 130. Most of you probably have seen it before. It's very, very poisonous, but fun. Sonnet number 130. Imagine that he's looking at his mistress. By the way, the figure of the mistress is introduced in the fourth part. It hadn't been before. It was a youth. But the figure of the mistress is finally introduced from after Sonnet 126. And we see how Shakespeare likes to loathe her. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses I see in her cheeks. And in some perfumes there is more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak. I do. I love to hear her speak. Yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love is rare as any she belied with false compare. So he is. It's quite insulting. I don't know what the proportion of ladies and gentlemen is in our audience tonight, but ladies, I mean, if you so you use lipstick, and coral is far more. He's saying that her lips are as white as coral. He's saying that black wires grow on her head, thick hair, black thick hair. There's oily, disgusting. No roses, no rose. There's no rouge in her cheeks at all. They're white as well. And from her breath, she reeks. It's a terrible smell. I heard Colin laugh when when I mentioned this. Yeah, so it's quite insulting. Quite insulting. It's a different tone from "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? No, thou art more lovely and more."
Quite harsh.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. It is in your face. It's like, I don't like this. I don't like this. Your cheeks, you're white. Your cheeks are white. Your lips are pale. Your hair is oily. I don't care. Goodness. And you're not a goddess. Who cares about goddesses? You're tread on the ground. I love you. You are my love, but Okay, let's move on. Sonnet 130. 138, pardon me, 138. This is about deception and lying. How I love this poem. This is very clever of Shakespeare, of the poet. That we don't know that Shakespeare is here. We don't know exactly, but of the poet that is writing this. So, when my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. That she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties. Thus, vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply, I credit her false-speaking tongue. On both sides, thus, simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not she is unjust? And wherefore say not I that I am old? Oh, love's best habit is in seeming trust. And age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore, I lie with her and she with me, and in our faults, by lies, we flattered thee. So it's a double. It's like a lie from both sides. It's there's a wonderful symmetry in this sonnet actually, because there's a balance. I find that it's very harmonious in the sense that here he and she are on par, are on the same page, so to say. She's lying to him, and he's lying to her about his age, and he is they're on the same page, and so therefore I lie with her and she with me, and in our faults by lies flattered be. We each have our faults, but by lies we are flattered. I love these brilliant last lines, the GGs. Okay, moving on, the last bit of this part 4 of the journey of the sonnets. Sonnet 144. Here he discovers that, as I mentioned before, if I go, can I go back here? That he loses both his loves and fails to find a way out. It's his descent into the abyss. Sonnet 144. Oh, not yet. Two loves I have, of comfort and despair, which like two spirits do suggest me still. The better angel is a man, right, fair. The worser spirit, a woman, colored ill. To win me soon to hell, my female evil tempteth my better angel from my side, and would corrupt my saint to be a devil, wooing his purity with her foul pride. And whenever that my angel be turned fiend, suspect I may, yet not directly tell, but being both from me, both to each friend, I guess one's angel is another's hell. Yet this shall I never know, but live in doubt, till my bad angel fire my good one out. Yet this I ne'er know, but live in doubt, till my bad angel fire my good one out. There's also a very beautiful dichotomy in this poem, I believe. There's a balance between the two, and at the end, it's almost like imagine like walking, kind of being on a seesaw, and as if at the end he falls off, losing that kind of balance. And so we go to the end, the drama, the last act of this wonderful piece of literature. And the last act is our protagonist, our speaker, makes a tragic discovery, this time without a doubt. In Sonnet 152, we learn that the speaker has found out that the mistress has been unfaithful to her husband. She has broken her bed vow, and in effect betrayed at least 3 men. And this is a catastrophe for the speaker. To cap it all off, he reveals that he himself is forsworn, and he has betrayed himself by swearing her fair all along. So he has not been true to himself. This is Sonnet 152. And then we'll return to the final and the end one to read the last one. In loving thee, thou know'st I am forsworn, but thou art twice forsworn. To me, love swearing, in act thy bed vow broke, and new faith torn, in vowing new hate, after new love break bearing. But why of 2 oaths breach do I accuse thee, when I break 20? I am perjured most, for all my vows are oaths, but to misuse thee, and all my honest faith in thee is lost. For I have sworn deep oaths of thy deep kindness, Oh, that thy love, thy truth, thy constancy, and to enlighten thee gave eyes to blindness, or made them swear against the thing they see. For I have sworn thee fair, for I have sworn thee fair, more perjured I, to swear against the truth, so foul a lie. So, coming to an end. Coming to an end. And has been lying to himself all this time. The man who has been lying to himself all this time has sworn deep oaths, deep kindness, oaths of love, truth, constancy, and yet it was all in vain because he was not true to himself. So he realizes that at the end. He realizes that at the end, and the finale, the grand finale, Sonnet 154, is the final discovery. We'll see that it's a bit not humorous, but not sarcastic. I'm trying to find the word. The final discovery is that the speaker has contracted a venereal disease and is seeking a cure in the sweat baths that were most commonly built to relieve afflictions like syphilis. It is thought that Shakespeare might have suffered from such a thing. There's frequent mention of this illness in his literature. Sonnet 154, the final of our journey today. The little love god, lying once asleep, laid by his side his heart-inflaming brand. Oh, I should mention that before Cupid had an arrow, previously to having an arrow, Cupid had a brand. So he wouldn't shoot. He would come in and brand the person with the person that he loved. So you kind of get a permanent tattoo of the person that you loved, which is an interesting idea. It's more harsh and less glossed and glossy than the previous, the current idea. The little love god, lying once asleep, laid by his side his heart-inflaming brand. Whilst many nymphs that vow chaste life to keep came tripping by. But in her maiden hand, the fairest votary took up that fire which many legions of true hearts had warmed. And so the general of hot desire was sleeping by a virgin hand disarmed. This brand she quenched in a cool well by, which from love's fire took heat perpetual, growing a bath and healthful remedy for men diseased. But I, my mistress thrall, came there for cure, and this by that I prove. Love's fire, water, cools not love. Love's fire heats water. Water cools not love. And so that is a short journey that we've taken. There's another ending that I would like to share with you. Not another ending of the sonnets, but another ending of today's talk, and that is, so where's the fun? So where's the fun? Because I was promising fun, and that they would fun. I hope that I had entertained you, and I hope that the ideas that were shared were entertaining. But give me a chance to express to you that there are some fun, purposely fun bits in Shakespeare, in these sonnets. Before we look at the following poems, two of them, the following sonnets, two of them, I want you to see the definition of the words will, because we will encounter the words will in different ways. So the word will can be a wish or desire, a thing that is desired, that people want. Like I really will something. It can be a carnal desire, lust, sexual longing. I will for you. Wow. The auxiliary verb denoting a future tense, so like will be, will. Willfulness, obstination, determination. I have willpower, where the word willpower comes from. A slang term for the male sex organ. So you have a will. Gentlemen who are here, you all have willies, right? You know what willies are, right, Mike? Okay. All right. So and it is the name William, obviously. So I have not completely discovered which will is will in this following two poems, two sonnets. So please help me out in reading it together with me. Which will is will, so to say. Sonnet 135. Whoever hath her wish, I'm sorry, I don't have a translation for this one in Russian, so I apologize for those who are used to it. Whoever hath her wish, thou hast thy will, and will to boot, and will in overplus. More than enough am I that vex thee still, to thy sweet will making addition thus. Wilt thou, whose will is large and spacious, not once vouchsafe to hide my will in thine? Wilt thou, whose will is large and spacious, not once vouchsafe to hide my will in thine? Shall will in others seem right gracious, and in my will no fair exceptions shine? The sea all water, yet receives rain still. The sea all water, yet receives rain still, and in abundance addeth to the store. So thou, being rich in will, add to thy will one will of mine, to make thy large will more. Let no unkind, no fair beseechers kill. Think all but one, and all me in that one will. So we don't know in what is he. There's so much ambiguity in this 135th sonnet, and it's a pleasure to guess and to play around with. I think it's incredibly playful, and so is sonnet number 136, which in a sense, just a second, I have to connect my computer, which in a sense gives us a hint at the author of these lines. For the first time, William Shakespeare, Old Willie, lets us know that he is present here. You'll see that in the end. If thy soul check thee, that I come so near, swear to thy blind soul that I was thy will. that was thy will. And will, thy soul knows, is admitted here. Thus far for love, my love suit, sweet fulfill. Will fulfill the treasure of thy love? I fill it full with wills, and with my will one. In things of great receipt, with ease we prove. Among a number one is reckoned none. Then in the number let me pass untold, though in my stone's account I one must be. For nothing hold me, so it please thee hold, that nothing me, a something sweet to thee. Make but my name thy love, and love that still. And then thou'st love me, sorry, for my name is Will. So we know, ladies and gentlemen, that is William speaking to us, and it's kind of witty. I just saying this phrase. When you have a chance, just write this phrase down and Google it. It's a fun tongue twister. This one right here. Will fulfill the treasure of thy love? I fill it full with wills, and my will one. It's just a pleasure to say. So, for my name is Will. One thing that I would like to probably do before we end, I like to have a balance in everything, in many of the things that I do. And I started off with a song. And probably will end with a song. But we'll try to do this. I want it to be absolutely improvised and random. If you can give me, if you can maybe Colin, if you can have the honor of presenting me or asking me to improvise on one of the sonnets that we had seen. If any of them had caught your imagination most, so to say.
All right.
Can you be?
Whether I get this right or not, I'm not sure. We'll go.
I don't know. That's the beauty of this moment.
I think we're stabbing in the dark, but I'm sure it'll come out great on 130.
Oh, okay. Okay. 130. Here we are. Okay. Let's And Oksana, since you can you give me a genre? So it can be anything from hip hop to classical, Baroque music to country to rock and roll to anything that fits, that you think that fits the moment.
Let it be rock.
Rock. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. In that case, let's give it a try. Just a second, ladies and gentlemen. Give me a moment. I will close my I think we can stop the sharing of the screen because I might have this sonnet here. 130, right? Colin, you got me. I know what I'm doing, Colin.
You're doing great.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Sonnet 130. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Pardon me. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. done. If hairs be wires, likewise grow on her head. I have seen roses, damask red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks, and in some perfume is there more delight than from the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath the form of pleasing sound. Yet I grant I've never seen a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet by heaven, I think my love is rare. And yet by heaven, I think my love is rare. And yet by heaven, I think my love is rare.
Whoa.
She belied, as any she belied with false compare.
Whoa.
Bravo!
Woo! Thank you, guys. Oh my.
Fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Genius.
Time for questions.
Wow.
Well, I'm open to questions, guys. I mean,
Can I ask a question? It's very relevant.
I have time for a couple of questions, so
Can mine be the first one?
okay.
Because it's very relevant. It's about Sonnet 130.
130. Okay.
Yeah. And dear Daniel and everyone, Colin, Michael, Oksana, you will be totally surprised, but I'm going to be politely but strongly disagreeing with Daniel Medvedev, yeah, about philosophical sense of this sonnet, as I think it's the most beautiful, sincere, honest, loving example of love confession in the world literature. Dear Daniel, or anyone in the world, for example, if I live to the day when someone reads such piece of literature to myself, I would be a happy woman. Yeah. And dear Daniel, probably when your wife is 99, probably her cheeks will not be coral. But if you read her this sonnet, she will be a happy woman and will die happy. Okay, that's fun of it. Okay, you may not answer even. But another sonnet, I forgot its number. It says about the unbreakability of love, right? That you are not times full, etc. I think, and please answer me if you agree with me. I think it's just a replica of a part of Bible, actually, because I cannot think that any author in the world, even as great as Shakespeare, can describe love as it is described in Bible. Yeah, in Russian and English, in any language. And I think Shakespeare actually sort of repeated it. Yeah, and maybe the last question, as dear Daniel, you represent a younger generation here. I would like to ask you, would you think that dear William Shakespeare would manage to compose a love confession using modern lyrics, as I know that young people are speaking like this now. Can William Shakespeare rhyme such texts like we have a relationship and she is my partner? Do you think it's very romantic? And do you think that this kind of business English shows something about current state of affairs? That's my question.
You're asking how can this be relevant to a younger audience? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because I cannot imagine that, for example, my classmates, not to say about my parents, describe love, marriage, yeah, compassion, etc., by saying, I have a relationship, or she's my partner, because I think that we wouldn't been born even if our parents talked like this before, 50, 30 years ago.
I don't know. I mean, I use the word partner.
Yeah.
I use the word partner. I mean, people that I know in California use the word partner. So I don't see. Maybe you're just to answer your question, how to make it relevant to the masses. Well, actually, there are several ways. I've actually, when preparing for this talk, one of the things that I could have done, but the audience was a bit different here. Most of the audience is probably older than myself. If I was talking to a younger audience, like children, for example, I would get them. There are. I mean, you know, there are things that you can get them hooked. Once you have them hooked, they're yours, and you can feed them. You can feed them. That's kind of my as a teacher. That's kind of my technique. Like, you know, you mentioned, since we're on Sonnet 130, then from the breath that from my mistress reeks, you know, it's kind of the imagery is comic. I believe that it's comic, and I believe that it can be shown in a comic way, and so that's why I find, and also in terms of appealing to a younger audience, there's many videos on YouTube where Shakespeare's rapped. Naturally, the natural rhythm of ba-dum da-dum 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 da-dum, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? People like it, and they get interested in it. It's a way they kind of jump over it, and they put them to beats. And you don't necessarily have to start with the sonnets. Sonnets are, you know, what I understood from researching this is that this is a book that is kind of meant to be read together, and it is. I'm going to be rereading it after this because I to be honest, I haven't read it as thoroughly as I could. It was rather kind of fast in preparing for this, but I think that it's one thing to catch someone's attention, and it's another to dive deeply into the subject matter. I think it's hard to dive deeply into this subject matter. I think it's, but I think that the thing is with language is that the more you're engaged into the language, the deeper you go. There's no. It's like in any art. So there's just different levels, and then there's one level. There's the picture level, the image. Then there's the word. There's the play of words, and there's the meaning of the meanings and the hidden metaphors, etc. So you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, as with anything. I don't know. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you for the fun and joy you brought us, as always.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Question. Yeah. Does it? Do you think that the writer, assuming it was William Shakespeare or someone else, I don't know, did they necessarily give a damn if other people understood it completely, or were they just laying themselves out?
Oh no, these were well, they gave a damn because they were making money from them, actually.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they definitely gave a damn. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to self-express and the world will understand. No, it was a clever. It was, once again, it's a combination of several things, because we know that whether Shakespeare existed or not, we don't. It's not an argument at all. I don't give a damn, to be honest. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. But what I do give a damn about is that the way how this process of love is described, and you know, it's a story. What I tried to prove today, not prove, just tell about, is that these 154 sonnets is a story, and it's a story that, you know, ends ends rather tragically, but nevertheless it's a beautiful collection of small stories within one big kind of small book. So yeah. I think that he definitely knew what, if he was, when he was writing it. I think that he was not necessarily describing himself, but describing a poet in different situations.
But Alexandra's point earlier was that, you know, maybe the language was not the language you would use today, but the language used was well understood.
Well, no. Here's the thing. Another thing that I when listening to a few lectures before preparing for this, found out that well, Shakespeare's known not so much in his sonnets, in his plays more so, that he created words. He created I don't know, won't say, but probably thousands of words in the English language.
Yes.
And so imagine if you're listening to it, if you're an audience member listening, because these are meant to be read. And they were published after his death, and they were not meant to be performed, they were meant to be read. But if you were listening to him and listening to his language, and you imagine hearing a word that has never been uttered before, and you're a simple folk person in the theater, and hearing a word that has never been said before, and then you go home to your sons and said, hey, I heard this word that I didn't know what it means, but this is what the content. And so it's an interesting process that when I was reading about it, that knew how new words and language is born. So in that sense, there is that in his plays more so, of course, than in sonnets. There is that new energy that may have been relevant to the people. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, any other questions? Michael Gibson. Mr. Can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the microphone. You were brilliant. I just loved that 130 sang as a rock song. That was just genius. So good. But it shows how very versatile they are, right? I mean, you've sang one as a Beatles song, you sang one as a rock song.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting how the language seems to be very flexible.
Well, the form, once again, the form is very convenient. It's like the A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, G. It has a certain rule. It's almost like why I didn't do the rock. It was more of like a blues ballad.
Right.
And the blues ballad it's in the same, because it's 3 and 4, and the resolution is in the 4th. And so it's very similar to that in a way. So that's why it was not too hard to do that. But generally, I mean, what I mentioned this at the beginning, if you remember, pay attention to the way you speak. Sometimes you will hear that you will speak in the way that Shakespeare, in the iambic pentameter. Right now, iambic broke it, but pay attention to the way we speak. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, da-dum, da-dum.
Hello, thank you very much for lecture. I know English is no good,
Okay.
but I like people. I like different English, and I love Shakespeare. For Russian, I read a lot, and I have a book Shakespeare for English.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, but I know English is no good. I understand you because you say sonnet, your soul, intonation, and I understand a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
When people say with love, soul, intonation, this understand people, different countries, different languages. Thank you very much, and thank you your conference, because I want to study English. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. I think that what we can do, Oksana, I can forward this PowerPoint presentation to you.
Mhm.
The translations and everything you can, so that it'll be useful. You can see the sonnets and the translations. Yeah, that'll be possible.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Mhm.
No worries. Thank you very much, Renata.
Okay, so thank you. Let's, as usual, we applaud to our speakers, and this speech, I don't know, deserves thousands of applause. Right? Thank you very much, Daniel, for a fantastic evening. I didn't feel like I was locked down somewhere, you know, I was, I don't know, somewhere above all that, you know, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. It's an experience, first and foremost. Where a first for me. I prepared. I have this special. So it's a pleasure to be a guest in these talks. They are stimulating for the mind and for the soul. And if there is a chance to come back and host another talk on another theme, I will be grateful. So
yes, we always welcome repeating speakers. So we start our next season. So this season is ending in 2 weeks, and we start our new season in September. So I'll be
in Chekhov library.
I have a lot of time, you know, to prepare, and hopefully it will be, you know, offline, but we'll see. Yes.
All right. Thank you very, very much, everybody. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Friday evening.
That's very interesting.
I bid thee adieu.
Yes.
If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended.
Great.
Okay.